most of you buy the conical disc sander because it's a great sharpening tool, and it is. It puts a really fine finish on joiner blades and planer blades. However, you can also do precision sanding with it. However, it's much different using the conical disc sander than it is using the flat disc sander. When you're using the flat disc sander, you have to pay attention to the rotation of the disc and hold the wood against the part that's rotating down, so it helps to hold you on the table. In the conical disc sander, you don't have that broad area of contact. When you put the wood or the metal up against the plate, you only have one line that is perpendicular to the surface of the table that is contacting the wood. This is because this is a rotating cone. The cone is also at 4 degrees to the table, so you've got to tilt the table to 4 degrees. And once you've tilted it, you've got to check it. You can check it with a square, okay, and I see a little gap here. And I'm going to loosen the table, tilt lock, tilt that in, just, come on, there we go. Lost it now, there we go. Right there, that's good. Now what I'm doing is I'm looking at the square and making sure that there is no daylight showing between the square and the disc. If there were any daylight, or if I put my thing on the square and could tilt it like this, see, I can tilt it. I'm not quite there yet. You want that square to fit snug up against that. That's it right there. Okay. That's you set that precisely at 90 degrees. Use the square, not necessarily the vernier underneath it. You can use the vernier to get close, but the square is much more precise. You can also, if you want, use a clinometer. This is available at any hardware store. And the neat thing about it is you put it on the table and you can read the degrees right there. You put it against the you put it against the disc. You can actually the magnet will actually hold it, and you can read the degrees, and they should be 90 degrees apart. It's also, this particular clinometer also has a square so you can get close and then check it on here. And I have seen clinometers that allow you to do up to hundredths of a degree, digital ones. So put that over there. We're going to take the leg that we cut earlier, and we're going to square this up precisely on the disc sander and leave all 4 sides absolutely smooth. So the first thing I need is a fence. Let me grab one from, I'm sorry I have to walk off camera here, but I need to grab a fence that I took off the other Shopsmith. Now I'm going to just move the fence in here so that the wood passes with just a little bit of friction against the conical sanding disc, and lock this down. That's it. A little bit of friction, but not too much. I need a push stick because this is too narrow a space for me to feed this with my hands, and some eye protection, which I have. Now we would ordinarily hook the dust sucker up to the disc sander and collect the sawdust, but I can't talk over the dust collection unit, so we're going to just leave that off for the time being. Let me take this, turn it on. Now, you'll notice that I'm going to stand to this side. As I'm feeding this, that line of contact is against the entire surface over here. And it's trying to throw the board back at me. And I have got to keep control of this and keep pushing it through. Otherwise, it will kick back, and I don't want to be in its line of fire. Okay, now I've sanded those two spots, and I'm going to mark them so I know which sides I sanded. Then I'm going to get out my calipers, and I'm going to measure. Okay, that one is just a 64th over 1 3/4, as is that one, the very same measurement. They're precisely the same. I want this to be 1 3/4, so I'm going to sand just a little bit off of this. When sanding with the conical disc sander, you want to advance either the disc or the fence only about a 64th of an inch at a time. Certainly no more than that. Got a little sawdust there. That's the advantage of having a dust sucker hooked up here. The reason for that is that you don't want to put too much pressure on this. If you're trying to take 1/8 of an inch off, there's a good chance that you're going to put so much pressure on this that the sawdust is going to become impacted between the grit on the sandpaper, and pretty soon it won't cut at all. It'll just burn the wood. Ideally, you don't want to narrow the gap between the disc and the fence any more than the width of the grit. If you happen to know what that is, I don't. So I'm just going to hold it to a 64th of an inch, or we're going to do this at about 5/1000ths. Now I'm going to use the slot on the fence and move the fence. But you can also, if you prefer, use the quill feed and feed the disc in. Remember my friend Bob Moran, there is no right technique. It's what you like to do. I like to move the fence. There it is. I got the fence moved exactly 6/1000ths. That dial indicator is a real godsend sometimes. Okay, Katie, there's no whining and woodworking. All right, we'll play some Frisbee in a little bit. One side. I'm sanding the sides that I did not mark. Okay, couldn't be any closer than that. That's exactly 1 3/4. So you can do precision sanding if you need to take off a lot of stock, and sometimes you will. It's a good idea maybe to have 2 of these discs one for fine sandpaper and one for coarse. Take off the, use the coarse one first, of course, to remove most of your stock, and then finish up with the fine sandpaper. Now I'm going to show you one other trick on this machine. What if you need to sand something that is, let me walk off camera a minute, need to sand something which is not perfectly straight. Okay, here's a board that I've cut a curve in. Okay, and I want to sand this side straight. Well, I can do that simply by taking another straight board, and I just freshly jointed this board, and I can stick this board to the this edge, and as long as I stick this so that both ends of the board are the same distance from the fence, it will cut a perfectly straight line. Here, I'll do this. I've put on some carpet tape, a woodworker's friend. I use carpet tape a lot in the shop. It's a great little tool. I've got to take this and peel off the paper. I would peel off the paper if I had a thumbnail. There we go. When you buy carpet tape, buy the good stuff. This carpet tape is sticky stuff on an actual cloth weave. It's pressure activated, and it has a really tight grip. Now, let's get out a rule. Now, in this case, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to get my large square, and I'm going to adjust this. Let's see. The widest part is about 5 1/4 inches from the fence. So let me turn this over here, and I'm going to lay this on just lightly so it doesn't stick. That's up against the edge of the square there, and then I'm going to bring this up against the edge of the square, using the square as a depth stump here. I've got the end of the square against the fence, and I'm bringing the wood against the face of the square. Okay, there it is. Now press down. Now, to make sure that that sticks, take a hammer, a rubber hammer if you've got one. A rawhide hammer is going to do here, and tap over each of the pieces of tape that you put on. That momentary pressure activates the adhesive in the tape and causes it to stick. Or grab on a little more tightly than it did before. Let me clear the table again. Good shop practice dictates that you don't want to have stuff on the table when you're working. Again, I'm going to bring the fence up against this and just barely press it into place. Turn this on. There you go. Now I could keep advancing that and get that. I didn't take quite as much off as I wanted to, but I could keep advancing that and taking a little bit more and a little bit more. using this edge to guide this curved piece. If I had wanted to cut a taper in it, I could do that also by simply putting the guiding board on at a slight angle. This is sometimes useful when you're sanding tapered legs or trying to match up surfaces on a piece. For example, if this had been the rail in a door, and the opening for the door wasn't quite square, and you needed to make one side 1/8 inch shorter than the other, you could tilt or angle this straight edge at 1/8 of an inch off from the other side and do that. When you've finished, or if the sanding starts going a little slower than you'd like, take one of these cleaning sticks and clean the disc. Let me show you how it's done. That cool? That's just neoprene rubber. It digs in between the grits and lifts out the impacted sawdust. That's particularly important not only with any disc sander, but especially with this conical disc, because if you do happen to get the pressure just a little bit tight, that sawdust will impact in there quickly. Okay, I'll